It's time for your board game dessert, my friends. This is Game Pie. Of course, this is when Mandy and I come up with a selection of games for you, curated by our good taste and whims. We don't like to do top tens or top fives because we get a little sensitive about ranking, and we love dessert. So here we go Game Pie. And the pie of the day is the dice game games. We have a pie full of games that are dice game versions of bigger games. So, not just dice games,
Yeah.
but like little baby dice siblings to bigger games. So, as usual, Mandy, why don't you serve up our first slice?
Absolutely. And y'all can tell who picked this game pie. It wasn't me because it's actually very direct and to the point. So my first game pie is Istanbul, the dice game. And I can't believe I even like forgot about it. So we're talking about it. I'm like, oh yeah. And because there are like a variety of Istanbul, but specifically the dice game is what I'm looking at today. So Istanbul, if you haven't tried it before, it's a very popular game. It's one of those games where you're trying to collect gems and you're visiting the different shops. And I love it because you have a stack and you get to drop pieces of your stack off and, like, uh-oh, not enough in my stack to get to where I need to go. There's even like a little jail. I mean, it's not a bad thing. Well, maybe it is a little bit, but there are places to get them back. And I really like the dice game because it still maintains the essence of the original game, but you're just doing it with dice. And a lot of the time, dice games try to make it a little easier by giving you gaining resources and things like that by rolling dice and giving your like decisions in a slightly easier or more compact way. So for me, I liked Istanbul Dice Game a lot because it still is reminiscent of the base game, but in a dice format. So I definitely find it just has like a slightly quicker play. So Istanbul the Dice Game, I played this one a lot and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Excellent choice. I love that game. My first slice of pie is Celtis das Würfelspiel.
Okay.
This is the dice version of a fairly well known game called Celtis, designed by the doctor himself, Dr. Reiner Knizia, of course,
Ah.
the very famous game designer. Celtis das Würfelspiel is a little less well known than Celtis, probably because Celtis is so popular, but don't sleep on the dice game if you can find a copy because it introduces dice into that really well loved formula of kind of racing up tracks, having to
Mm.
negotiate through Knizia's special negative point zones and things like that. You're getting wishing stones along the way, but of course, you are tied to the whims of the dice. But for whatever reason, whether it's the math of the game, the energy of rolling dice, it really comes together so well with that push your luck element of
Mhm.
Celtis combined with the dice. It just clicks. Celtis das Würfelspiel, I actually enjoy it more than Celtis itself. So that's my first slice
Interesting.
of dice game pie.
All right. Well, that was a good one. I don't think I played that one, so I need to add it to the list. So my second slice of dice game pie, I had to like think about that one, is the Castles of Burgundy, the dice game. And I literally think I have every iteration of the Castles of Burgundy, the board game, the card game, the dice game. I'm probably missing another one in there somewhere, but I have them all. And again, Castles of Burgundy, the dice game, you're like, oh, it looks very similar to the board game, except it's paper. So your tiles are on paper versus having the actual like tiles in a board game. So you're technically getting a smaller imprint of the game. And I have to say, this one is smaller than even the card game because I swear the card game is massive. But
Yeah,
it's
it's a small box, but once you
but
lay out all the cards,
huge game. This doesn't
yeah.
I feel this doesn't do that to you, not as much anyway. So it definitely falls into the feeling of that more kind of roll and write vibe. And but again, I like the fact that it keeps the essence of the game where obviously the goal being to try to collect the most points, but by filling out spaces on your board where you're trying to fill out like the colored regions, like you have like I'm throwing words at it. It's been a long time, but like like a grassy area or I don't know. Throw some things out here, Suzanne. My brain is not
Well, the
remembering the.
fields and the castles and
Thank
the
you.
different building types and bonuses and yeah, I agree. It really is reminiscent. It really does call out the vibe of Castles of Burgundy.
Yeah, so if you like Houses of Burgundy and you're just like, "Hey," I mean, it's not exactly the same, but the vibe we were saying is very similar, and you just wanna do something to travel with, or, hey, you just want something just a little light and go, Castles of Burgundy, the dice game. It's a great one. And I actually potentially think, Suzanne, you're probably the one who put me onto this one. I feel like you probably put me onto a lot of these ones that are on the list, but there you go. Castles of Burgundy, the dice game.
Great choice. Next slice up for me, maybe not as well known as some others.
Yeah.
Baseball Highlights, the dice game.
How
Baseball Highlights,
Like, how did
I
I
don't
not know
know.
about this, Suzanne? Like, this is why I have you. We're gonna have to talk offline after so
Well,
I can find out where I
I
can
can
get
make
it.
some comments about the publisher Eagle Griffin Games and their approach to
Oh.
marketing, but anyway, that's a whole different episode. Baseball Highlights is a fairly popular, pretty deep deck building game themed around the baseball of the future, where you
Yeah.
have like cyborgs playing with humans. Well, the designers decided to bring that down into a roll and write version of Baseball Highlights, and I think they did a very strong game. They also have a Football Highlights card game, and they made a roll and write version of that as well, Football Highlights dice game. And I enjoy both a lot. I think they captured the essence and the energy. It's one of these games where you're trying to make progress on different zones, which give you bonuses so you can combo them with other things. And I always enjoy that kind of gameplay in general, where you kind of feel clever in those special little combo moments. And so, hey, if you like, and sports games are not. It's not that common of a theme in the
Yeah.
world of board games. So, Baseball Highlights, the dice game. If you like sports or if you like the original game, definitely worth checking out.
I want it because I really enjoyed the base game, and that's a shout out to Dan, Game Boy Geek, because he's the one who turned me on to that game to start with. So definitely want to get my hands on the dice version. The next slice of pie for me is one that I used to nom 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 eat all the time at lunch, like for a long time. That is La Granja no Siesta, also known as La Granja no Siesta das Würfelspiel. I had not heard that name, but I think that's obviously the German version
Sure.
of the
Yeah.
game. And I had only played the original La Granja like once, so I actually don't even really fully remember it. So it's gonna be hard for me to say, oh, like it's exactly the same, but I think it has a similar vibe. But I did play a lot of the dice game, and for those who don't know, I do love any type of like resource collecting, worker placement, that sort of thing, and this definitely has that vibe because your whole point is to collect resources, on your sheet to finish out some certain actions because you're going to need resources to do said actions and get those points. And you can hire like workers and things like that to help you do that. So it does take mechanisms from the board game and implement them here in the dice game. And I really liked it because you still got a bit of that crunch of the board game, but again, in a shorter and slightly lighter amount of time. So La Granja no Siesta, muy bueno. I very much enjoyed this one.
Excellent. Alrighty, next up for me, Long Shot, the dice game. Long
Oh.
Shot is a fairly well-known horse racing game, and here we have the dice game version from Perplex Games. It got a little bit popular recently, and I'm so glad for it, well deservedly so, because it plays 1 to 8 players, and you do have a board where you actually are racing the horses, but really you are building up your gear and your kit, and you are dealing with other players, and the interaction is great. The roll and write action is great. And in terms of bringing the energy of a racing game, of Long Shot, the racing game,
Mhm.
into a smaller, more portable dice game, knocks it out of the park, just to mix my sports metaphors. So, Long Shot, the dice game, if you haven't had a chance to check it out, it is a phenomenal dice game version of a larger racing game.
It's on the shelf. Yeah, thanks for putting me onto that. I can't wait to try this one. So looking forward to it. So my final slice of dice game pie, is Fleet the Dice Game. And it literally is about deploying your fleet of fishing boats out, and well, catching all of those fabulous fish to get some points. So I've never played the original game. So
Oh, the card game? Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, the original.
So I don't even think I own the card game. Or no, that's not true. I own the card game. I just haven't played it. So I've only played the dice game. And so I can't actually do the comparison. And this is where Suzanne, please feel free to jump in on that. But I'm assuming they're very similar. But again, this is another game where it's simple, but then there's still a lot of decision making. And you heard me say ships and fish and getting certain buildings or areas you want to build those up and say, maybe I want to do this will help me out here, and then realize, oh well, that wasn't a smart choice because I didn't put anything into that at all to get those points. So again, roll and write type game, but I really like any kind of game that gives me a lot of like decisions, but like fun decisions. And it's about fish. I love it. So Fleet the Dice game for me is a win, and I know it's a very popular one with a lot of people.
Excellent choice. Alrighty, to serve up the last slice of game pie, it is from me. Let's make a bus route, the dice game.
Nice.
From one of my all-time favorite publishers and designers, Sashi. This is a solo or two-player edition of the larger board game called Let's Make a Bus Route, and this one is dice-based, whereas the other one is card-based. So you're rolling dice and you're making choices on your personal board, but a hallmark of Let's Make a Bus Route is the shared drawing map board where you're charting out your path and you're hitting different milestones like tourist spots or office workers or pedestrians and things like that. And Let's Make a Bus Route, the dice game, maintains all of the essence of the larger game and incorporates the dice beautifully. Plus, it does make for a very fun and entertaining solo game as well, if you're
Nice.
into that kind of thing. So, cannot recommend it highly enough. Sashi is a phenomenal designer, and Let's
Oh
Make a
yeah.
Bus Route, the dice game, is a phenomenal game.
Ooh,
So, there
good.
you
Last
go.
choice. Love it.
I love all these dice distillations. If you have a dice distillation game, the dice game version of a larger game that you think we missed, you should let us know.
Yeah.
Send us your comments. If you tried one of the ones we brought up, let us know what you think about them, either in the comments or you can, of course, email us at saltandsassgames@gmail.com. Or you can join us in our boardgamegeek.com guild. That's Guild 4131. And we'll have a thread about this episode there, and you can chime in with your thoughts on the dice game games. Mandy, where else can folks find us?
Oh my goodness, we're on all the socials, so potentially you may watch us here on YouTube or maybe when we live stream on Twitch. And we're on the YouTube and Twitch at Salt and Sass Games. We are also at the Twitter or the X or whatever you want to call it. I know, Twitter. Sorry, everybody. And you can find us there at Salt and Sass Games. So that's Salt N, the letter N, Sass Games. You can find me at 613 Mandy on Instagram, Blue Sky, and Twitter, and probably other things, but it'll be at 613 Mandy. What about you, Suzanne?
That's Mandy with what letter, Mandy?
Oh gosh, how could I forget? And that's Mandy, Mandy with an I.
There you go. I got
Thank
you.
you.
And you can find me on all the social media platforms at 425 Suzanne. So until next episode, folks, have fun, stay hydrated, and play lots of games. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody. À la prochaine. This episode was sponsored by Druid City Games, where player experience comes first. Check out all of their great games at druidcitygames.com.